Welcome to The Lost Signals Discusses Film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzur-Mossi Thurlow scale,
or MOTS,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Lost Signals Reviews, Television, and Movies. And we're continuing our quest to do more television and make the title of this series actually
make it as accurate as possible.
And today we are doing American Vandal Season 2. Perhaps the last season, but probably not. But the last season on Netflix. I'm Jonathan Ian Manser, and this podcast is approved by Kurt Vonnegut. Here with Scott Thurlow.
And I did not wear my brown pants tonight.
Stephen Mosey.
I'm going to have to change my pants by the end of this episode.
Hopefully.
All right. So, Scott, would you like to give us the funny log line?
Yeah, so leading to that is I just got who poop first, or if you don't like that one, who poop school. Either of those might work.
Great references. So, I'm going to do the plot, but before we go into it, we need to actually discuss something here, because this is a very different review of plot than many, or I think almost all of the works we've done.
Yeah. So before you go on, we'll just say, like, if not, you don't know, I already know spoilers for sure, because this is a more spoiler-ish heavy show versus some other things. So just to be clear, just a warning.
But again, we review heavily based on narrative. And this is a work that's a parody of true crime documentaries. And surely true crime documentaries have a narrative, but they're a narrative crafted out of true events.
It's bolted onto what they have, the facts they have, and so forth to work with, sure.
Right.
This one is a scripted story, but still matching that
sort of tone and feel.
and the narrative as developed in true crime works.
Yeah.
So, do you judge it as just as a narrative work, as a comedic narrative work, or as a documentary narrative work?
Well, I'm going to take a page from your book, perhaps, and judge it by its relation to the genre it's clearly trying to fit in. So it's not actually a true crime story, right? Because it's a made-up crime. It's also an absurd crime, if you will. So I think, like, I will judge it more based on that it being a parody, as you said, than the actual, like, narrative elements within it. Although I'm going to, obviously, we'll talk about that. But I think as a whole, I think that's the way I'm looking at judging something like this.
Yeah, so as someone who has seen and listened to probably a little, I don't know how much true crime stuff
not
you
much
guys
for
have
me.
checked out
One or
this.
two.
Here and there.
So I listened to all of Serial Season 1 and a bunch of Season 2, although it wasn't quite as good. And I went through, I watched a bunch of, like, Making a Murderer and stuff like that. And, like, as probably the person that has watched the most of this type of stuff, and you know, like, all this stuff back in the day, also, like, Unsolved Mysteries or whatever, like, as perhaps the person that of the three of us who's watched the most of it, I'm not the biggest fan of the genre, but I think that is what makes this kind of refreshing, that, like, they're doing a almost perfect takedown of the genre. This show won a Peabody Award, which is pretty incredible. But the way that they sculpt the plot of this so perfectly in terms of that, like, true crime style is really great. And I have to give them a lot of credit for doing it well and keeping my interest throughout. And in terms of plot, that's, you know, they do a great job of throwing enough twists in Season 1 and Season 2. I mean, I know we're talking about Season 2 here, but we never reviewed Season 1, so I may just give them a little bit of credit there, because they also did this in Season 1. They throw enough twists into the plot, which is really what you're trying to do in a true crime documentary type of thing.
Or, like, new evidence comes to light.
Yeah, exactly. That it keeps it interesting throughout all of the episodes that they've done.
So then to go further into it, and what you're saying about the twists is also, in a sense, red herrings. That they have to establish, this is a narrative that could be a possibility. Wait, like, at the end of the episode, oh, no, we found more information. Tune in next time.
Yeah, or something that contradicts something, yeah.
Exactly. Sure. And so
And it does do that very well. I'm engrossed in American Vandal, not just because I want to find out who pooped the school. Actually, I don't really care all that much. I'm more interested in meeting the people. And I guess that's almost to me, when I watch true crime, when they do it well, it is about the town or the environment, the people involved with it.
Sure.
And hearing their stories. And on that point, they do, I feel, a really good job of mimicking the best points of true crime while also doing the parody elements really well.
Yeah.
And that makes me lean towards a 3 because, again, they establish red herrings, and at the end, it turns out all the herrings were correct in a way.
Right.
That
Sure,
it was a much more complicated plot than you would automatically assume, especially based on the first one.
Well, that exact thing is what I really loved about this season is, it was very different from the first season.
I don't know, very different, but different enough.
The outcome was very different. We'll say that. I was about halfway through the season, I was a little concerned that it was going to end up being similar to the first season. And I love that they went in a completely different direction with the end of it. And it's a really diabolical scheme that the
It gets dark.
main antagonist came up with. I guess the main antagonist or whoever you want to the main
the perpetrator
villain, will say
the turd burglar,
the turd burglar himself came up with.
But everyone's the turd burglar. Everyone's burgling turds.
Well, that's the entire point of what he's doing is he wants to make it so that everyone is just as guilty and dirty as he and poopy as he is.
He's the Wilson Fisk of
whatever high
fecal
school
matter.
it was. Yeah. No, it's funny. So you said a lot of stuff that I was going to cover, and I think the two big things you already mentioned them too. So I was looking at either a very strong 2 or a solid 3, and I'm leaning towards a 3 because of the fact that they had to do all the things you said, and also as a parody, it's almost like a Spinal Tap kind of thing as well, if you think about it. So that means they have to sort of double cover both angles and make them work, and I think they do. They leave you with cliffhangers, or a character says something, or some little piece of information is revealed that then of course is a cliffhanger for the next one and the next one, and it's engaging throughout. And they unravel more of the crime and more clues, and eventually, spoiler, they figure out who is a turd burglar and what his entire scheme and his elaborate plans were. So I think on that level it works, and on the level of, again, as a true crime, again, if you thought I could see you being oh yeah, this might be a serious thing, but clearly it's not, and they're aware. They walk both ends, is what I'm saying, to a really well degree. So I'm giving them credit on both fronts, and probably looking at a 3 as well at this point.
I think I'm also going to give it a 3. It's really funny that you mentioned that. I was talking to, I forget who it was. I was talking to somebody recently, and they were like, "Yeah, so I've never watched any of that show. I assumed that it was real, a real true crime
an actual thing
documentary, and they just didn't really know completely what it was about. They kind of got the gist of the first 2 seasons. Oh, it's just a true crime thing that follows these real but weird event things that happen." And I was like, "No, it's completely scripted." And they were like, "Oh, well, that sounds a lot better." And I was like, "Yeah, it does sound a lot better."
And here's the thing: is that they play it straight. Even at the beginning, this is "Oh, Netflix picked us up after our YouTube."
Yeah,
there's a bit of meta stuff on it for sure. Yeah,
but there's another point I want to make that I think strengthens it. That of all the suspects you have, there's two main suspects that they establish in here: Kevin and Tillman.
DeMarcus, yeah.
DeMarcus, yeah. I spelled that wrong. Nonetheless.
DeMarcus Tillman is his name.
Both of them, I liked both of them. I hated both of them at a point.
Yeah.
And I pitied both of them at a point. And at different points in their little arcs.
You're right. I think they struck a good balance. We'll probably talk about that in characters, but that's part of the narrative as well. For sure.
No, it certainly is. And the fact is, this show works because of, again, as I mentioned, the complex characters within it. So I'm going to give it a very strong 3.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to agree as well. It's going to be a 3 for me.
All right.
All right, Steven.
Themes. Well, you have the reason that this all happened was the intense bullying that kind of, or not even intense bullying, but the unfair treatment of a character, but to an extent that comes out of the bullying of what happened in the school, right? So, and each one of these characters deals with that in their own kind of way. So what's his face? Grayson Wentz, the actual turd burglar,
The mastermind.
Yeah, the mastermind of the turd burglar crimes. Yeah, did something that was messed up, but could point to like other things that other people did that were much worse that they didn't get in trouble for. The only reason he got in trouble was because he wasn't like
He was kind of an
hero
outsider
of the school.
already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He was, he was an outsider, and he was an easy target to, have, to kick him out of the school, whatever. And then you have DeMarcus, and I forget the character's name, but his like idol, who had been in school previously, who was the one that we were talking about, had pulled like a big stunt like years before and never got in trouble for it because he was a huge basketball star, right? So like you have that. You have DeMarcus, who kind of always feels like an outsider because he's been basically recruited to come to the school to play basketball. You have Kevin, who I'm not even like I think he's just a weird kid. Like they keep trying to like pin his weirdness on the Shitstain McLean incident that happened to him, but I think he's just a weird kid.
Well, I'm not. It's a matter of perception. It's like, like all the teachers, like he's bullied. He's like, no, and he says,
he never
no,
really felt like it.
I'm just the fruit ninja.
Yeah, because he loves being the fruit ninja.
Well, no, see, that's not quite true, though.
He's like, I made up that name myself.
See, I think it's deeper and more complicated than that. Like, everything you said is there, but if you guys recall, towards the end, when they're uncovering conversations, like text strings between Kevin and what he thought was like, well, the girl that Grayson was
Chloe.
impersonating.
No. The other, yeah.
The girl whose phone
Right.
he basically hijacked in order to perpetrate the
catfish.
Yes. Right. So Kevin said something in his text message. He was like, yeah, everyone loves the fruit ninja, but no one wants to be the fruit ninja. So he still sort of felt like somewhat on the outside. And he even says as well, he's like, yeah, I started like going off by myself and like meditating and stuff. Like everyone thought I was kind of weird. So I sort of embraced it and like sort of created an image around that.
But that's exactly what I mean. Like, I think
so like he escalated in a sense.
I think he took his own persona and just like,
maybe
escalated it, I guess is the best word to use. Like he just made it him because it was a way for him to be himself and still get like somewhat positive attention, right? Like,
sure, it's a little of both, if you will. But I'm saying it's a bit more complicated than it seems.
And I love how much they delve into everybody's just absolute weirdness. Like in this show, like even the most people that you assume in the beginning are the most well-adjusted people turn out to be like really kind of fucked up. And like, I think it's a great way for a show about somebody who made a cafeteria full of people shit themselves to hold a mirror up to society. like
There's no better way.
It's a show that made its dime on dick jokes and poop jokes, and it's
not just that, but like,
but it's one of the more, it's one of the more in-depth analyses of like culture that is out there right now, which I fucking love. And like, not that like really surface level stuff. It's like, hey, why don't we go and like looking at teenagers is one of the ways to like really get into this shit, because teenagers are like walking fucking psychology experiments, So I think it does a great job in terms of all that stuff. I like the themes of this a lot, and I want to give you guys a chance to.
Yeah, well, there's a big one. I think I'll let Ian take it, because there's something else towards the end where it takes a turn that I think, if not the theme, is one of the strongest things that they've done. So I'll hand it over to Ian.
Right, hopefully, I guess what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I want to talk about two. One quickly, and then I want to go in depth about something that I think overarching in the entirety of American Vandal has been very important.
Yeah.
First one I want to talk about is, and you brought this up a little bit, athletic culture in these types of schools.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fairly important to certain character aspects, but the fact that they protect athletes, the athletes are, even though you did say an outsider, they feel that they're other people are relegated to outsider because they feel that the athletes themselves are being elevated above. But I don't want to talk much more about that, although I think it was done very well.
It certainly is there.
If I may, just really quickly, I think Scott and I can, we know what that's about because we both went to a Catholic school where athletics was like
not athletes.
super important, and people were recruited to go to that school, like out of middle school, to go to high school there, and it's a real thing. Like that is no joke. Like there are people that are brought into a place where they feel really out of place because they're good at athletics, you know?
And I mean, I don't know that from high school, but I know that from college.
Yeah.
Sure. We all went to Rutgers. Actually does that to a certain extent, and not as much as like Alabama does it. Or whatever. But nonetheless, the point I want to bring up is privacy. Because this has been a huge point of both American Vandals, as I mentioned earlier. In the first one, I think the best line and what really sold me is when, towards the end of the student confronts, what is it?
Sam
and Peter.
Peter.
Yes, to you ruined my life by outing all of my dirty laundry in your show. In this one, it's not about Peter and Sam doing it. It's about both the catfish, which I feel really terrible for all four of the turd burglars victims, the poopers, if you will.
Manipulated.
Yeah. Was that Jenna,
Mr.
DeMarcus, Kevin.
Mr. Gisaldi, DeMarcus, and Kevin?
Yep. Because
and who's the
Diaper Boy.
And
Diaper Drew.
Because we in this country actually have a weird, like, there's completely off topic here, but there's this myth that like husband and wives can't go to jail for the same crime type thing that you sometimes like.
I don't think that's true.
It is not true.
What is that from?
But it's a myth. But no, there's like, or that thing that you can tell your wife and they can't confess against you on certain things, which is not the case in a lot of things. But there's a certain level of elevation of privacy amongst people in relations. When intimacy is involved, there's a certain like sanctity to those conversations that happen, and it's a real betrayal when someone breaks that intimacy. And to have someone establish on false grounds a level of intimacy to get who you are and then use that to blackmail you, that's a tragedy right there. And it's what all of four of the poopers are afflicted with. To certain degrees. Some like or actually 5 if you count Diaper Drew.
Right.
Diaper Drew says, like, I don't care what, I'm not going to be blackmailed here, but he's the only one of the 4 to stand up against it. So I think that's and then they bring up the fact that we care so much about our privacy and intimate, but we then give our intimacy out on the internet for free and give worse portraits of ourselves out and allow the public to see it. And so there's that kind of contrast there that I think they make very well.
Yeah, you're right. Those are the 2 big ones. I was sort of going to mention DeMarcus' speech at the end, but it ties in everything you just said. Where like he's talking to Peter, like after everything has come to light, pretty much, and he's just having a conversation with him. He's like, "Listen, man, the athlete culture thing comes into play, and like the privacy thing." He's like, and also he's like, "It's alienating being who I am and having to act a certain way, and people perceiving me a way, and then this shit happens, if you will, and it changes things." So like, I thought
I'm sorry, but they absolutely go into that him leading 2 different lives, that's changing the way that he acts when he comes to school, whereas versus like what he.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like what he said.
That speech sort of exemplifies all the things you guys just said in a pretty nicely done way.
He's lost his friends because now they're invested in his future. He doesn't have anyone to talk to. Again, this I think wraps around nicely to that. He found someone who he can be himself with, he can be intimate with, and then only to get betrayed on a deep level.
So I think you're right. Like, and I think we have to give credit to this production field because certainly I wouldn't think people expect something like this to have as many themes and cover them as well as they did. But I think it does reflect something about our modern culture and society in a really well done way, integrated into everything else that they're trying to do.
There's very much like Aristophanes, Kurt Vonnegut. You sometimes do absurd and like, I guess, lowbrow humor to get a grander point across.
Yeah, for sure.
Vonnegut was great at that.
Sure. And he's even like referenced in American Vandal season 2 as well. Yeah. So all I'm saying is like I think it's a very strong one on themes because it covers so much ground and it's so relevant to I think our current state.
One's all around.
All right,
Scott. onto antagonists.
So this is an odd one too. Like, of course, on the surface, personified, it's Grayson Wentz. He's the one who is responsible for enacting his elaborate plan, contacting I think they said like he contacted like 300 people or something at the school.
Yeah.
And like the 4 or 5 who bit.
He was just catfishing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So, yes, he perpetrated the crime, but I mean, like, again, it ties back into like, was he justified? Probably not to the things that he had these people do, although all fictional. But like, what it says, I guess. So, maybe all the issues we just brought up in themes are the antagonists to various degrees as well. But so I know we often disagree about like what should we call it, a corporeal thing, because again, certainly it's him. They got him, like they know who done the poops, if you will. But his like reasons for it and like tracing it all back and like tracing how much work and time and effort he put into doing this shit. So I don't know, like you guys tell me, should we call it him, or should we call it again a more nebulous sort of angsty existence in this current age at that age of high school?
Well, I think I am going to call it him, but you make a really good point. Like, is what he did justified? Probably not. But like, did he have good reason to be pissed off? Yeah, 100%. Sure. Like, you know, I think that, and you know, obviously this is fake, made up story, but I could see it being a real thing. Like, you know, I think it's a really fantastically written show, especially for, you know, this could be just like the lowest of lowbrow shows in the world if they really wanted it to be. It's
sure, but it's
so set up
it's
for
smart
that.
and witty as well.
But,
like, it has definitely intelligence to it, as we said.
But there's a really great payoff to both seasons, to season 1 and season 2. I mean, I know we're just talking about season 2 here, but like the writers of this show know what they're doing and know what they're building towards,
and they handle it really
and they handle that really well in terms of who. So like this one has a more solid antagonist than the first season did, right? Like,
yeah,
you don't
sure.
really know what's going on in the first season, or you don't know 100% what happened in the first season. But in this season, Grayson is a really well done antagonist because you understand his motives, because
that's a really good point.
You get what he is going for and like why he is so bitter. It doesn't mean that it's, you know, he takes the best actions in the world or whatever,
Sure.
But like, you know, the best antagonists are the ones that you get their motivations and you feel for them to some extent, and you sit and you realize like, oh, they do deserve a little bit of like redemption, or like, you know, a little bit of payback, you know. And I'm going to give him a very strong one as antagonist because I kind of like him as a character, you know.
I think you're just jealous that you didn't think of this when you were in high school.
We didn't have the technology to.
I never got kicked out of high school, so I didn't have the impetus to come up with
Didn't have
such
the
a
motivation.
grand scheme.
The weird thing about Grayson is that you don't see much of him. You just see the wake of his actions and the repercussions of them.
You see him a little bit here. I think he was
But-
one of the good red herrings who actually turned out to be.
Well, I didn't even personally, I didn't even view him as a red herring. I just thought he was a pit stop in their investigation.
Right, but
Because it's very brief. But yeah, they do establish him early on that a suspect, so he's not completely out of blue later on.
Yeah.
Right.
But everything you were saying about he weaponizes the high school angst. He weaponizes people's outsider feelings. He takes all of those aspects you were saying about like the abstract antagonists and turns them into a like his guided missiles of shit. And I think again that's effective to me because you watch it after he already won.
Yeah.
You're entering after the fact.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So-
he does get taken to court at the end, like once they bring him to light.
But he had his revenge.
Sure, but he already got away with everything essentially.
Right.
Sure, I think you guys are convinced me at least. I was going to give it a 1, like probably either way, but I think all the stuff personified by him and perpetrated by his actions, I think deserves a 1 for sure.
He's like the modern day Xanatos.
Yeah, kind of. Xanatos of whatever St. Mary's or whatever school.
Shit, Xanatos.
St. Bernie's, I think, is what the school they were at.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Shit Xanatos implies a bad Xanatos.
Xanatos,
No.
shit though.
Yeah.
Shit is a descriptor, not a. Well, I mean, it's
Okay.
gonna be a scriptor. Whatever. Go on.
I'm on the
Move on.
protagonist. I'm going to call Peter and Sam the protagonists
Interesting.
because they're the outside observers in this. Yes, every single, but and you say interesting, and I could see you pulling several other characters, the people like Kevin, who they're trying to defend. However, both in the first season and in this season, it's strictly from their point of view. It's them. You get to see these characters through the lens of their investigation and their own personal judgments of them. So they tailor the narrative to say that at this point, Kevin is going to be more of the antagonist, while DeMarcus is the complete protagonist. In here, we're switching this. Oh wait, new evidence. Yeah. They're both now neutral in this. Chloe might be the problem. Like it's they're determining the.
I mean, they're coming up with theories,
the narrative, and I think they do a good job. They drive, the absurdity, but they have to carry so much weight in as the both protagonists and narrators that it wouldn't work if they weren't great, and it does work. So a 1.
I mean, I largely agree. So right, you can look at it from two angles, right? From the true crime angle, whereas them are the investigators, so therefore it's their story, but they're really supposed to be removed and objective about it. So it's the story of the people they're investigating. But it's certainly they definitely drive a lot of the action, and they frame it, as they're laying out their little theory of what happened and laying on the timeline and stuff. They did the same thing in the first season too, but I think they were a little bit stronger even in this season. So even if you hadn't seen the first, I think they come across as a bit more personable, I guess. Not if not that, they're in it a bit more. Their presence is felt a bit more. So I do think at the end of the day, I will agree with them being protagonists, and I think they do a good job. I totally believe that these are two high school friends who want to be doing this shit, and then they're trying to figure this all out. And while they're talking to people and visiting different high school, and they act very natural too. This might go to dialogue, but I just remember early on, the framework is their show got picked up by Netflix, right? In quotes. So now they're getting offers to other people wanting to investigate, blah blah blah. And they're yeah, we went to Chloe's house and it was sick. So we set up camp there, or whatever. Little moments like that. That might be again not strictly protagonists, but nevertheless, on top of all that, I do think they're very strong, and I'll give them a strong 1.
Yeah, it's really fascinating thinking more in depth about this, because really what this is supposed to be, or what this is lampooning, and what they really what the writers I think really want to get into, is the fact that these are supposed to be people that are removed from the subject matter that the movie is about, but they're not. This is as much a show. I'm sorry. When I say as much, I mean this is absolutely a show about them.
Sure. I agree.
Whatever is happening is not a side note, but it's secondary to the story of Peter and Sam. They are the ones who are driving all the action by being the ones by showing the fact that they're coming to this school because Netflix gave them a grant to go and do whatever they want. That puts them firmly in the driver's seat of protagonists. I think you're right. Yeah. But here's the other interesting thing is that by virtue of that, there's a second story.
Oh, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
That Kevin and DeMarcus are the protagonists of. So you have two different tiers of protagonists.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah. Embedded clauses.
Exactly. I think I'm going to give all 4 of them protagonist duties in
each of their respective stories.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So Peter and Sam are the protagonists of American Vandal season 2. Kevin and DeMarcus are the protagonists of the documentary that Peter and Sam are making.
Yes.
May I offer you a quick rebuttal to that?
Sure.
Peter and Sam are by no means objective narrators. They're very subjective. And as I mentioned earlier, how you see Kevin is how they see Kevin. If they see Kevin as a sympathetic character, he becomes a sympathetic character.
Right.
That's a good point.
If they don't, the writers of the show are writing Kevin and DeMarcus through Sam Peter. They're writing Sam and Peter objectively. And thus I'm not going to give, because in a way, you're right, they're characters, but they're characters in
a sub-narrative, if you will.
In a false, like,
a nested narrative.
But the best part is, like, the writers of the show are writing these characters as they would be themselves in this situation. Because if you were making a true crime documentary,
I get what you mean.
This is how you would write these characters.
So that's the thing is, I think that
would be these
they exist. We're talking meta narrative here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give the again, Peter and Sam the meta narrative.
The meta protagonists say one.
Either way, it's going to be ones all around. I think.
Yep, I think so.
All right, keep talking about supporting characters now.
There's 1 million. Exactly 1 million supporting characters.
I have 1,000,002.
Shit.
I have 909,075.
So Chloe, Kevin's like best friend, and Chloe and Tanner, Kevin's two best friends, are pretty important. They end up hooking up at one point, much to Kevin's chagrin.
Well, like that had already happened essentially.
Right. But he doesn't find out about it until later. Lou, DeMarcus's
best friend and possible
best
agent.
friend slash guy who's trying to ride his coattails. Does a really good. Like I really love his portrayal as Lou, and trying to figure out what he was all about was a big part of what this season was for me. Like trying to figure out his motivations and like where he was coming from and all that stuff. And like when you finally get that closure on him, it's really good. There are so many. I guess like
all the students and
the
teachers.
other poopers, like Jenna, Drew, and Mr. Gisaldi are side characters. Yeah, there's a ton. I'll say those. Like everyone that I've named so far does a really great job in like fleshing their character out, and I'm really impressed with this show, especially this season, last season too, but especially this season, in how much characterization they crammed into such a small. I was going to try and make a poop joke, but I'm not going to. A small
crevice
amount of episodes. It's really impressive. Like every single one of these characters has this like moment of kind of realization of who they are, right? And I have a couple more written down, but like you have Jenna, like when she breaks down in the car when she's super high, like that's a great scene. You have Lou when he like fucking flips out on the basketball court because Peter won't tell him who his source was. You got the diaper Drew in his fucking coming clean moment. Bad choice of words.
No, perfect choice of words.
Like they just all have these great moments of clarity about like their character, and I think they all work really well. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Everyone should have a documentary made about them, or at least within their circle.
Yeah, man. Like you covered. Like here's the thing, right? Because of the nature of it, it's going to be a ton of side characters that flesh out the world and like in the high school and like everything that orbits around that. So yeah, like they have to do a good job. It has to be believable, and I think they all were. Certainly, you could have like a hierarchy. Like I'll just give a shout out, I suppose, to Chloe because she was like the catalyst, the impetus of like why they're doing the second season, like in universe, if you will. But yeah, everyone did a great job filling it out because that's what like true crime is kind of like. You have always like kooky little side characters, like the super religious kid Paul, like all that other stuff.
He was great.
Anybody who was even there, like the teacher who loved Vonnegut and had Vonnegut Day, like she wasn't there that much, but she's there enough. Like fucking hot janitor who's like like a part of like the investigation briefly, like all this shit, who provided like some information that opened up other avenues.
Like I could like that's a great example because like hot janitor, nobody knows fucking anything about this guy except for I'd be like, what do you know about hot janitor? Oh, well, he's super into the environment. Like he lives in a van, like or an RV, by himself.
He lives off the grid.
He got moved from the school he was in to another school because he got framed for like he knew too much.
Yeah.
right? Like, you could say a lot about all these characters who are like throwaway characters that you just know so much about them, and
Yeah, you're right.
they do a really good job of like cramming all that in.
They cover a lot of ground, and it's all very believable. So I'm giving it all super collectively a 1. I can't really pick out one per se. Like I said, some are more important in quotes to the investigation, but everyone they encounter, like even like the cop and like the I don't know local other person who was like interrogating Kevin at the beginning, right? Trying to figure it out.
The 2 cops? Yeah, exactly.
So, like, whatever. So, all of them are solid as hell. Everybody who appears, however briefly, or not briefly even, I think does a great job. You're right. It's impressive how much they can fit in here and have it be meaningful and relevant and have an arc to whatever degree it is.
It's almost like they found the town full of some of the most interesting, or at least, like, everyone has their quirk. But the thing is that, again, I don't include Kevin and DeMarcus. So this is, to me, the entire supporting cast is this school and the town around it.
Mm-hmm.
Both the rich section and the slummier section to it. And everything is believable, if a little bit unrealistic at the same time, if you will. Because it's
high school,
almost too quirky. Yeah. But not to the point of me ever being like this is unbelievable. It's more... I don't know. I think it all worked really well. So I'm going to give it a very strong 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, Scott dialogue.
I believe it's me, yeah. So again, this, I won't say it lives or dies, but certainly they had to nail the dialogue to, again, make it believable, especially since they parody of true crime stuff, but also like you're supposed to believe that Peter and Sam are friends who are doing this project. So I think it works a lot. It's very impressive the way they made it feel so natural and so organic, especially when characters, like, you made a good example earlier, E, where they show Kevin in a certain kind of light, and the Marcus in a certain kind of light, and then it switches, given, like, based on the information that they're interviewing people with or have found or uncovered, or the theories they're coming up with to fill in the gaps of the information they don't have. So, like, it's all that, but it's all very natural banter, too. Like I said, like, when they're like, oh, Chloe's house is fucking sick, so, yeah, we set up camp there. And and even when they're analyzing people's mode of communication, they did it in the first season too, but I think more so in this one when they're like comparing text messages and stuff and like
putting a period after an emoji.
Yeah, like they're like right, like
no, it's a monster.
Who the fuck does that? Like it's some serial killer level shit right there.
I love the glitch that happened on the iPhone, and
like tracing that
tracing it down
to
like whatever
but
the time frame was.
I just all the interactions, like, and even like DeMarcus, I think his speech like encapsulated a lot of that. In terms of dialogue and the use of it and like how people present themselves in different facades of themselves in various situations. So I think dialogue actually reflected that theme a bit now that I'm actually talking it out. But even so, even on the surface, again, with them just interviewing people and sitting down and having conversations and trying to figure shit out, to me, it's all very natural. I believe this was a high school situation and this thing happened and they're just tracking down everything they can while continuing to do their quote unquote documentary project.
When I watched season 1, I was unsure if it was a fake or real.
Yeah.
And then I knew it was fake by then. And then I saw the opening to season 2, and I'm like, wait, did I misremember? Is this actually, like, because they do the whole Netflix thing. But the thing is, the fact that is very believable.
Like, if you didn't know this wasn't, like, this was a scripted thing, like you're saying your friend or the person you were talking about that, you might buy it that it's real, right?
And I have to give it a 1 for that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was consistently impressed throughout by the level of like realistic dialogue / very well written. Like they walked the line really well of like not ever making it seem like it was fake or like bullshit,
like haha joke.
Also, like not overwriting it, but also
exactly.
very much not underwriting it either. Like there are some really good lines that are thrown in, like just tossed around. And yeah, they're lines about shit jokes. I mean, I feel like somebody who's a good writer was like, I've been writing serious stuff for a while, and I really just want to write an entire season of TV that's all shit jokes.
Maybe, but
let's just make it all dick jokes.
But there was certainly one shit joke per episode at minimum.
One?
At minimum, that's what I'm saying.
There were definitely more than one.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, given that, like even that being the premise, it's still believable. It's still not like so over the top.
I would go so far as to say every joke finds its grounding in this season, finds its grounding in shit, just like every joke in the first season finds its grounding in a dick joke.
Yes.
Right? Like
the way it works is I would say that if I were involved in the situation, I'd be making puns on
Of
shit
course.
constantly.
and that's why it works so well because the framework
is set up
there's
as
a lot of there's a lot of shit going on, no pun intended, or exactly a pun intended, and like,
exactly the level of shit that he wanted.
Yeah. And if that was the case, everybody would be talking about it, and that's exactly what they based this entire series around, and it works so well because not only because it's just kind of funny, but also because whoever wrote this show, they're good writers as well.
It's both highbrow
and they do a really
and
good job
at the same time.
doing that. Yeah.
So one's all around?
Yep,
One's
think
all
so,
around,
sir.
So this is going to get a 10.
I think so.
Yeah, I think sounds like it.
I'm going to go on a style which is going to actually reflect a lot of what we said in dialogue. It's very well crafted, a good parody. I think, as I mentioned earlier, plays it straight. And this is played straight with an absurd premise behind it. I think that every single turd attack was creative in its own unique way.
Yeah.
Each crime was memorable and different.
And I don't know, like, I think it's very well done genre-wise as both a parody and a true crime. And that's what it's going for. Its music is great. It's the opening credit sequence
Transitions.
is great in every season.
Yeah.
And just the world they built is very believable. Everything we said about dialogue, again, it falls right into style.
Yeah, a lot of stuff we covered in plot I think applies here, and you said a lot. I don't have much more to add, but like I said, like the thing that got me from first episode 1, even having history, knowing season 1 as well, when they had the framework, the meta framework of this is why we have great production value, why we're on Netflix is because we got picked up by Netflix. Like that was really funny to me, and it kept it up throughout. Like you said, it's walking the line between both of those genres and managed to, in fact, merge that line in a bit, in a way that really worked. So,
Yeah,
I'm giving it a 1. That's all I can say.
I
about
agree.
it.
I think that the lampooning of the true crime shows is done so well. Like whoever was, well, in all aspects, the script writing, the directing,
Set design, I would
each
say,
episode, the set design, the cinematography, like everything on this puts me in the mood of like, oh, whoever is doing this really knows what the hell they're doing. Like, really has watched a lot of true crime stuff
Sure.
and knows
their shit,
how
if you will.
to make that look really good. In fact, probably a lot better than most true crime documentaries look themselves.
Which is like, that's
to be honest.
but super impressive that you
Yeah.
can say that about it.
I mean, it's looking at a genre that's popular, figuring out why it's popular, being able to make something like that, but at the same time being able to make fun of something like that. And I think that's a tougher skill, right? Like going a step further and picking out the absurdity of a genre that most people take really seriously, which is kind of why I don't like it, because most people get like so way too into that shit. And being able to like pick that apart, figure out what's going on with it, and make fun
Take some
of it
comedic elements from it, sure.
is amazing, and I really love this show for that, and I think they do a great job. So obviously it's a 1 for me.
Yep.
All right, Stephen, continue talking with recommendation.
I will recommend it. It's American Vandal season 2 is a great season of TV. I'm really kind of confused as to why they canceled it. As to why
I was going to address that.
Netflix has been canceling a lot of shit lately, and it's I don't know. I maybe they're having some trouble. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I don't like it. Iron Fist I was fine with, but Luke Cage and American Vandal, let's cut it out, guys. But I will say this, as far as recommendation goes. I initially started trying to watch this right after I got home from work one day after I had cooked myself dinner. Do not start watching this while you are eating.
If you're faint-hearted.
Do not. Faint-hearted.
Faint-stomached.
If you don't like watching people take a shit while you're eating.
All I could say was I was eating dinner through various episodes and I had no problem.
I guess you like watching people shit while you're eating. I guess that's...
I didn't have a problem with it either.
We found out something new about you,
It's not quite
Scott.
the case, but sure.
I mean, what do you mean it's not the case? There's an entire school of
They're not
shitting people.
the whole fucking time, though.
No, I'm saying I started the show.
Okay.
The first 10 minutes of it are people just shitting all over our
Fine,
school.
that is true.
I was eating yogurt during that scene,
That's gross.
and I was fine with it.
That disgusts me. That disgusts me.
Just means your weak stomach can't handle it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess whatever.
Mhm.
Take it as you will. If you don't, all right. So let me put it this way: if you like watching people shit while you eat, then go ahead and watch the first 10 minutes of this while you're eating dinner. For normal people, don't wait until you're not eating. That's all I'll say.
I have no caveats. I think this is one of the best satires of our time. I believe that you don't even have to be a fan of true crime
Exactly.
to watch this. I think I might. Maybe it's money reasons that they canceled from Netflix. I'm sure that it's going to get picked up somewhere else. And then we can watch season 3, which probably won't be as good.
I really hope True TV picks it up.
I give season 1 and season 2 a 10.
I mean, I recommend both, sure. But since it's season 2, obviously the newest one, and we're covering it now for this season, so yes, I definitely recommend it. And it's easily consumable. I was going to mention it's only like half hour, 24-minute episodes or whatever, and there's only 10 or 12 of them, so you can get through it like pretty quickly compared to some other things. And yeah, it's totally worth it. Like you guys said, it walks the line for both of those genres and does it really, really well. It's kind of something unique you don't really see, and I don't understand why they canceled it either, but I do agree that it's good enough that someone else is going to pick it up, and maybe season 3 will be as good. Like, I don't know what makes you say it won't be.
Well, I thought season 2 wouldn't be as good as season 1, and I thought it was better. So maybe, hopefully I'm wrong.
Regardless, I'm definitely recommending American Vandal season 2.
Yeah.
All right, that gives us all 10s, which
Easy math.
I think on our scale, it fits in with
Yeah, man.
10.
I think it hits all the points, and like I said, it's really enjoyable. And
It is
some of the best
certainly the
television.
best satire of true crime that I've seen.
Yeah. I don't know if I've seen another
that might be a
satire of
narrow
true crime, but
window, but
yes,
nevertheless.
agree.
Hell yeah.
I
I don't know much more than that.
I'll definitely
It's
give
10,
it
dude.
bonus points for trying something interesting.
And succeeding.
Yeah.
A lot.
Like so much.
I'm Jonathan Ian Manzer, here with Scott Thurlow
I gotta go use the crapper right now.
and Stephen Mosi.
And if you guys want to watch me shit while you eat, come see me when I wake up someday.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Editing and engineering by Jonathan Ian Manzer. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Or Mott's?